Hot Cross Bunny sounded like a really interesting concept, and for the most part I enjoyed the execution, but I think the pacing was a little bit slow to begin with. This is a 1948 Warner Brothers cartoon directed by Robert McKimson, written by Warren Foster, and we have Mel Blanc voicing Bugs Bunny. And Bugs Bunny is the Eureka Experimental Hospital. And while there, he seems to be having a nice time eating carrots, relaxing in bed, but a doctor is actually planning on swapping Bugs's brain with the brain of a chicken. And honestly, it takes about half of the cartoon to get to the point. I don't have the exact figures, but it was roughly about halfway through. About 3 minutes had passed until they actually got to that point, and I felt like they spent a bit too much time setting up. Obviously, it's important to set the scene to some degree and to give us a chance to get to know the characters, outside of Bugs Bunny, of course. But I think they took far too long, and that meant that once it did happen, they could have done a lot more with it. And they could have had a lot more humour. I can't say too much without spoiling it, but once they get to the point where they're using the headgear to do the swap, what happens after was so brief and so underdeveloped. And if that had happened earlier, and they'd cut out some of the padding that I felt wasn't necessarily necessary for the first half, there is, some good stuff in the first half, but they could have definitely shortened that, got to the point a bit more quickly, and then had fun playing with that. So I feel like the pacing was really bad. The execution was alright. Bugs was on top form. I really enjoyed his performance. As a concept, it was interesting. The execution was up and down, very mixed. So I would recommend it if you are a fan of Warner Brothers and you haven't seen it, or indeed of Bugs Bunny. But it's not my favourite. It had a lot of potential. It's one that I would like to see remade. There are very few Warner Brothers cartoons that I've not loved and would actually like to see them have a second go at. But this one, I actually think could have been so much more, and I would like to see what else they could do for it. Definitely watch Hot Cross Bunny if you like Bugs Bunny, but it's never going to be a personal favourite.